Let's do your money line. Money line is a vertical line that starts at the end of the headline, and it goes up towards the mercury finger, or lines, depends on how many there are in there, and that section in between the head and the heart line, that's about age 20, 30, and half of 40, crosses the heart line at age 45, and then it goes on up into that mercury finger. So the explanations between the mercury and the sun finger, in red, very good money line. 3 lines, 3 incomes in your 20s and 30s. Now, let me explain. If you went to college and you got scholarships or financial aid, something like that, that's an income. That is something that is coming to you, even though it's not actual money. And you have to count, if you get scholarships or financial aid, you have to count that in that income. So 3 lines, incomes in your 20s and 30s, 2 lines in your 40s, and then it crosses that heart line, and then you got 3 lines again in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. So you got a very good money line, money lines. Right underneath the mercury finger, this is where your marriages, your relationships, and your children are going to show. So, see where the flirt lines are on the end of the heart line, little tassels? Well, I call them flirt lines. It really means it. If you got little tassels there that you interact well with people, yours are fairly good. And then that section in between the flirt lines and the ring around the mercury finger, that has your marriages and your relationships going horizontally from the outside of the hand to the inside, and then the children lines go down from the ring around the mercury finger. So that section between the flirt lines and the ring around the mercury finger, you divide that into thirds. The first third is about age 20, 30. The second third's 40, 50, and the last third 60, 70, 80. And then starting right there, kind of in the middle of that mercury finger, and going down, they're little tiny short lines. Those are your children lines. See where the little green asterisk is? You read from the inside out. So the first child would be that line where I've got the little asterisk. Children lines, 2 lines together. And then there's 2 more lines. It's got quite a space in there. Then there's 2 more little lines. They're short lines. They might be stepchildren, or they could be grandchildren too. But there's a little space in between each set of the 2 lines. Because I don't think you're going to have, it doesn't look to me like you're going to have more children. Are you the one that wanted more children? No, I don't think you were. No. Okay, you do have a marriage line in there. Now, all your relationships are not going to show. Very often, the first one from age 15 to 22, that won't show at all. And then the second one might show a little bit. The third one then shows just above the flirt lines. That relationship line shows. And then you've got, so I marked that in red, 2 relationships. You got one before the marriage and one after the marriage. You got one relationship then before the marriage, then there's a marriage line, and then there's another relationship when you get older. The reason you generally, women get a relationship line after the marriage line is that women have a stronger DNA than men. They have a X DNA, and the men have an XY DNA. So see, it weakens their DNA just a little bit. So because they have that weaker DNA, men usually die 6 to 7 years before women do. And I see this all the time in the hand reads. And that's why you see so many little old widows running around, is because the DNA's weaker on the men. And they die quicker. Read your obituaries, you'll find out. Okay, so you got the one good marriage line, and then you've got another relationship line there later in your life. So your one marriage, very good marriage line. It's got nice color to it, and it's nice and straight. It's a good marriage line. It's slightly more than about 20 years long. There's not an exact time on these marriage lines. But when it gets over there underneath that Mercury finger pretty good, you can figure that's good 20 years. Now, I can't tell you exactly when you're going to marry, but there's a little marking that shows up in the fate line. The fate line's got a good timeline on it. It starts at the base of your palm and it goes up. When it crosses that head line, it goes up to the Saturn finger only. And when it crosses that head line, that's about age 40. Where it crosses the heart line, that's age 50. And then when it crosses that line around the base of the Saturn finger, that's age 80. So this little marking looks like the letter Y. It's a little stick with a fork on the end of it. And it'll show up in that fate line at a time that is positive for you to marry. So here's, it only shows on the left hand. Here's why I found that little marking, your chance to marry. It's good 20 years. Now, I can't tell you exactly when you're going to marry, but there's a little marking that shows up in the fate line. The fate line's got a good timeline on it. It starts at the base of your palm and it goes up. When it crosses that head line, it goes up to the Saturn finger only. And when it crosses that head line, that's about age 40. Where it crosses the heart line, that's age 50. And then when it crosses that line around the base of the Saturn finger, that's age 80. So this little marking looks like the letter Y. It's a little stick with a fork on the end of it. And it'll show up in that fate line at a time that is positive for you to marry. So here's, it only shows on the left hand. Here's why I found that little marking, your chance to marry, at age 40, 41, 43, 49, and 54. That's where the little chance to marry marking shows up. Of course, you make the choice. You pick whichever it is, but that's a positive time when you can marry. Okay, and it's a really good marriage line. I honestly don't think you'll get children from that line, but you might get stepchildren, or I say those other two lines might be grandchildren. Now, you should have received about 4 charts with your hand reading, and if you'll find your chart that says hand analysis chart, it's got the big hand on it. We're going to basically work off that, and then we'll bring the other charts in as we need them. First thing you need to know is your left hand is your past, your right hand is your present and your future. It does not matter what handed you are. The left is your past, the right is your present. Most of the work we do is on the right hand, the present hand. The length of your fingers are your talents. Everyone has talents. No one gets cheated, so long fingers mean one thing, short fingers mean another thing. Nothing's good or bad, that's just the way you're born. Look down there in the lower right hand corner where it says talents and it says palm shapes. The shape of your palm is probably your most important talent. And yours is, yours athletic. Kind of a squarish, rectangular, but so athletic and practical. But you got a little bit of roundness to that palm on the side. Slightly artistic there. Okay, upper right hand corner, types of fingertip. This is your personality. I only do 5, just the right hand. You've got 2 pointy fingers. They're not real pointy, but they're a little bit pointy. Means you like fine things, sensitive, diplomatic, impractical. Collectors, you generally have those. And then 3 rounded fingertips. Intuitive, quick, very compassionate. That means caring about your fellow man. Usually I see those in the doctors and the nurses. People in the health field. Jump down there to the thumb now. Oh, the thumb is absolutely average. That needs to be about halfway up. First joint on that index finger. It's just absolutely average. So you have both qualities, the long and the short. Short means you work pretty good with numbers, and then long means you will do well in life. because you have good manual dexterity. You hold tools and instruments well in your hands. Okay, up to that index finger, the Jupiter finger. Let me explain the names on these fingers. Palmistry is about 2,000 or 3,000 years old, and they had gone through and they named all the fingers and named different areas of the palms. Each little section had a name to it. Generally, they were names from the Greek gods or goddesses, or astrological names. So that index finger is the Jupiter finger, the middle finger is the Saturn finger, the ring finger is the Sun finger, sometimes called the Apollo finger, and the little finger is the Mercury finger. Then that section right in between the head and the heart line, that's clear across the palm, that's called the Mars area. And right below the thumb, that's an important area. It's the pad right there at the base of the thumb. That is called the Mount of Venus. Venus, goddess of love. Because that's going to show your sexual libido. It also tells you if you're drinking enough water, too. If you're dehydrated or not. And you're just slightly dehydrated. You need to drink a little bit more water. You need 32 ounces a day. If you see any wrinkles in that area right there, then you know you've got to increase your water intake a little bit. The body can live without food for a while, but boy, it can't live without water. So make sure that little fat pad right below your thumb is nice and fat. So fat you can hardly pick up the skin. Okay, back to the index finger, the Jupiter finger. It's kind of long. It's good. That is the boss finger, the manager finger, teaching finger, leadership supervisor, the Saturn finger, the middle one. That's your business finger. That's pretty good too. You know how to do business. And the sun fingers, absolutely average again. You got both the qualities on that sun finger. The long part, creative, imaginative, inventive, and then the short part, which is practical, systematic, organized, a place for everything and everything in its place. You're a little picky about that. And the little finger is short, hands-on person, very active. If it's real long, it's the writer's finger, and you love to sit at a desk and write. And I don't think that's what you want. You've got to be kind of active. What do you do, girl? Well, you got some college, stay-at-home mom. Oh, you're a busy person if you're a stay-at-home mom. Okay, let's do your heart line. The heart line is the first major line in your hand. It's at the top of your palm there. It generally starts between the Saturn and the Jupiter finger and comes down. Yours doesn't start very good up there, but it comes down. It should make a nice little curve and then go out to the side of the hand where the flirt lines are. Your line's a little bit straight, means you're a little bit tough emotionally. That indicates to me that you probably had some physical injury or something, or some real strong emotional problems. That's what makes it a little bit straight, and that means you're tough emotionally. Now look up there in the upper left-hand corner of your chart where it says lines of energy. Run your finger down where it says island, I-S-L-A-N-D. Whenever you see those little islands, a little break in the energy is what they are. When you see the islands, they disrupt that line a little bit. So if you see the little triangle-y things, or little ovals, or little circles, generally they show up kind of underneath the line. And you've got some little triangle-y things in there. You have to look pretty close. That's some heart health stress. That means the nerves that go to the heart, they're getting a little bit of stress on them. You'll understand that in a minute when I explain to you about the headline. Okay. And your heart line isn't that bad. It's fairly decent heart line. Underneath that Jupiter finger, 2 items. Number 1, you got a little grid underneath there. That's some childhood injuries. But then you've got a lot of lines in your hands, and I think you'll understand this more when you see this chart. I think it's causing a lot of lines in your hands because you're out of place right there where the nerves that go to the hands come off the spine. Underneath that Jupiter finger, you should have a nice little mount. It's a little fat pad, and it's called the sixth sense, your intuition. And here's how that works. Yours is pretty good. If you got a problem you got to solve, just clear your mind and let it go blank for about 30 minutes. And then when you come back to solve the problem, you'll probably have it already solved, because your intuition or your sixth sense has kicked in, and it'll help you solve the problem. So listen to the little promptings inside your head, because you've got a nice little sixth sense there in your hand. Okay, your achievement lines, they come off the top of that lifeline, and they either point to that Jupiter finger or they go straight up. And if they're quite long, I've circled it because they're an extra good achievement line. Or if they're kind of fat, or if they've got a lot of color to them, then I've circled it. They're an extra good achievement line. So in the upper left-hand corner of your chart, here's your achievement lines, starting between your thumb and your Jupiter finger. At age 14, and going down along, starting at the top of that lifeline and going on down. And it goes on around the back of your thumb. At age 14, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Oh yeah, you had a little batch of them all together there in your late teens. You must have done something good in your teens. 20, 21, 23, 26, 28. Circled at 31, 34, 38, 44, 45, 49. Circled at 50, 55, 56. Double circled at 57. That was a really good one. That's getting down there at the bottom of that thumb. Double circled at 60 also. Those are two really good lines. Something good's coming up for you. 63, 70, 73, 75, and 79 is a double circled. It was a good one also. So it does. You're gonna do something that's pretty good. You didn't say if you're going back to college or if you had a little job on the side or what. You didn't say anything in your information. Now we're down the head and the spine line. Oh, first thing we got to address is that gap. Generally, that line starts between your thumb and your Jupiter finger. And where it starts is usually the headline meshes with the lifeline for about a half an inch. Yours doesn't go together at all. You've got the gap right there in between the thumb and the Jupiter finger. So find that little chart that says the gap. You're born this way, kind of strong-willed, impulsive, independent, ambitious. You don't get over those. You got in both your hands too. The gap. Okay, that headline's going to tell you two things. It's going to tell you how smart you are, and it's going to tell you what health condition your spine is in. So straight across your hand, that headline goes, smarter you are. Yours goes right across, except when it gets to the end there, you're getting a little fork in the end there. It's a little depression line. And then all the little islandy things in there are your spine that's out of place. And you're out right at the base of your neck. When you're out at the top of that spine, it's going to throw you out in the lower spine to compensate so you can stand up straight. Find your chart that says understanding your cervical spine. And see down at the bottom of that, it's got a picture of a vertebrae. And off the vertebrae is that little bony process that sits on your spine. And off of it surrounds that spinal cord. And off of each one of those little vertebrae, a nerve comes off that spinal cord. And it goes to different areas of the body. Your head, your neck, your throat, your lungs, your heart, your stomach, your arms, your legs. Then those nerves all end up in your hands and your feet. So I've got another chart on there that shows where the nerves end, on that you can do a little therapy on it. But looking along that headline, see where you've got the little island marks in red? That's where you're out of place. Very easy to knock that spine out of place. If you had an accident, or if you've been hurt physically, or if you had done gymnastics or contact sports at all, had a fall, very easy to knock those vertebrae out of place, especially if the two big old muscles that go along each side of that spine, if they're not real strong, those vertebrae can come out of place. Oh, easy to get out of place when if you're using a computer. I call it the internet. I think you got it. Yeah, you got the internet. I used to read palms in the 1995, 96, 97, before the advent of the computer. And I didn't see people's necks out of place, but boy, since 2000s, since the advent of the computer, almost everybody around the whole world are stretched out of place right at the base of that neck, where they lean over those computers. It only takes a couple hours leaning over that computer and have your neck kind of get stressed out of place, the vertebrae in it. Find your chart now that says Chart of Effects of Spinal Misalignments. And see the little spine there on the left-hand side? Yes, that shows in your hand. That's what shows on that head and spine line. And then the next column is the name of the vertebrae. Your cervical, thoracic, and lumbar. Your tailbone. The next column is the areas. That is the areas that the nerves go to that come off of each one of those vertebrae. The blood supply to the head, the scalp, the eyes, the cheeks, the ears, the nose, the thyroid, the heart, the lungs, the liver. They all have little nerves that come off that spinal cord. Then that last column is the effects. And that's the effects that you get if that vertebrae is turned out of place. Depression. See, you got that little depression line. Headaches, nervousness, anxiety, heart problems, lung problems, stomach troubles. So that on that spine where I've circled all those red areas, that's where your spine is out of place. Very easy to get out of place, and those nerves, the vertebrae will turn a little bit, and it'll pinch that nerve. And then the nerve goes out into the body, it goes out, intermeshes with the muscles. Then when it gets a little pain signal in it, the muscle, the pain signal goes zit, 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 and intermeshes with that muscle. Then the muscle gets a muscle spasm, and it holds that vertebrae out of place. So it doesn't go back in until you get an adjustment and get it put back in, and then you got to keep that spine healthy. Now, I don't tell you all this information just because I'm a palm reader. I've got a master's degree in health education, and I'm an old school teacher. You can probably tell. And I was finishing up my master's degree in health ed when I was in my 40s, and I started to read these palmistry books at the same time I was finishing up my master's degree, and my gosh, it showed about all the health stuff that showed in your hand in the palmistry books. And then I found this old book that was written by a medical doctor, Dr. Eugene Scheiman, and he told how you could see the spine in that hand, in that middle line on the hand, and it all fit together so well. And so I'd go out and do readings and mark the charts, and some of the people would take their charts with them to the doctors and get an x-ray, and they just matched exactly with the charts in the hand. And so where I've got the little red islands marked in there, that's where you're out of place. Under the Jupiter, I don't think you're out in the top two, the 1C, 2C. If so, you'd be getting your depression line would be worse than it is right now. You are out right there in that 6C, though. That's run your finger across there. That's a depression line. You're out really bad Right there in your 1T, 1 thoracic. Look on your little chart there. That is the nerves that go to your arms from the elbows down, including the hands, wrists, and fingertips, and your esophagus and your trachea. That 1T is the one that goes to your hands, and I think that's why you're getting so many darn lines in your hand, because you're way too young to have that many lines in your hands. Is because that 1T, 1 thoracic vertebrae, is out of place really bad. And that's, if you're leaning over the computer, that's doing it, the internet. And then you're out the 2T, which is your heart nerves, and your 3T, which is your lungs. You've got a little start there in your lungs. I'll tell you about that in a minute. That it doesn't, the line doesn't come up very good. So you're out right all through there in the base of that neck. And then underneath that Saturn finger, that is your thoracic area. You're out a little bit right in the middle there. And sun finger, that's your lumbar. You're out right there in that lumbar area. If you're out the top, it's gonna throw you out in the lower spine the opposite way to compensate. This is who your guardian angels are off that lifeline. They're the lines that come up from the bottom of the lifeline, and they touch on the lifeline at the age you were when someone you have bonded to has passed away, has died. Like your grandparents, your parents, your siblings, your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, old boyfriends, old girlfriends. If they've passed away, they have become a guardian angel to you, and it touches on that lifeline at the age you were when they died. It shows only on your left hand. So the numbers that I've got here is the age you were when they died. So you have to do the little math to figure it out. Okay. Oh, and then that line comes up on that left hand. The line comes up and touches, and then it makes a little tiny line that goes right across that lifeline. Here's the age you were when someone you bonded to has passed away and has become a guardian angel to you. At age 15, it's in purple, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, 31, and 33. So then do the math and figure out, you don't put, it's not their age, it's your age. Now, that's on the left hand. On the right hand only, this is a visit from a guardian angel. Say you get really sick, or if you've had an accident, or if you've had an operation, you'll get a little visit from a guardian angel. Or, again, if someone has passed away that you bonded to, very often their spirit lifts from their body when it dies, and it goes around and checks on all their loved ones before it goes off into the light. So it shows as a visit from a guardian angel. So sometimes you'll get the same number on your visits as you get in that guardian angels. Well, let me see if you got. Oh, you got a couple of match there. Well, you might just have one. Okay, this is a visit from a guardian angel. At age 14, it's in red. The line comes up from the bottom of the lifeline, but it does not make a little tiny line that goes across. It just touches at the bottom of that lifeline. At age 14, 19, 23, 28, and 34. So if you've had anything that's traumatic that's happened to you, sometimes it'll show a guardian angel line there also. Okay. Our last line is the fate line. Fate line is in the lower right hand corner of your chart in green. Starts at the very base of your palm, and it goes up to the Saturn finger only. And about every eighth of an inch is about a year. About every half an inch is about 7 or 8 years. So anytime you get a break in that line, it's a change. Now the fate line equals your career and your lifestyle. So it's a change in either one or the other. Usually it's a change in both, tell you the truth. I've circled the ones that have the break. Sometimes you get a little fork off that line, and it's kind of a minor change. Age 34. Oh, where that crosses the headline, that's 40. Where it crosses the heart line, that's 50. Where it crosses the ring around the base of the Saturn finger, that's 80. Okay, these are breaks where they're circled at age 34, 35, and 36. You had quite a little change there in your late 30s. You're in your late 30s now, aren't you? And then age 40 to 48, you've got 2 lines. That's 2 jobs, 2 separate jobs. I'm sorry, you have 3 lines in there. 3 lines, 3 jobs. It could be a job, an income-producing job and a hobby. It could be a family and a job. Could be almost anything. 3 responsibilities. Okay, that's 40 to 48. 3 lines, age 48 to 51. Then that just goes down to 2 jobs. Then you get 1 line up to 60. Then at 60, that forks off. And 1 line goes to the left of that Saturn finger and 1 goes right straight up. So you got 2 lines. And the one that goes to the left of that Saturn finger, all that means is that your spine is jammed. That's all that means. And then the other line goes right straight up into the finger, and it crosses over the line there, which is 80, and it goes up to 92. You're going to live till you're 92 years old, so you better get that back straightened up so you feel good.